This is the Wealthy Retailer Podcast with your host, Dan Holman. Every episode, Dan talks with a variety of retail experts, owners, managers, and so much more, sharing their expertise, their experiences, and the retail topics that matter to you, the independent retailer. The Wealthy Retailer Podcast is brought to you by Canadian Retail Solutions. Learn more at retailbycrs.com.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for joining us again this week. My guest, Alvin Narsey, is joining this week, and Alvin and I share a common philosophy in building business by creating cash flow and profit. And Alvin has had an exciting journey buying and selling multiple pharmacy businesses in Australia over the last 16 years. He's trained as a pharmacist in Melbourne, Australia, and bought his first business as a partnership a few years after graduating university. And as a pharmacist, you're really trained as a clinician, but not how to run a business. So with the help of coaches and mentors and a feverish appetite for freedom and adventure, he quickly learned how to utilize systems and leverage to ensure these businesses were fulfilling his lifestyle goals. Ultimately, Alvin discovered it boils down to implementing the basics in your business, focusing on cash flow and profit from day one, and setting everything up so that the business runs autonomously. Alvin has now sold all of his businesses and focuses on traveling the world, helping other retail business owners improve their cash flow and profit. His simple philosophy, visibility, cash, profit, and with this simple philosophy, visibility, cash, and profit, he believes when you have the visibility of the numbers in your business, you can start to flush your bank account with cash and drive profit. We're going to talk a little bit today about working on it, not in it. We'll get Alvin's take on cash and profit in retail. Listeners, as you know, I have a pretty strong passion towards cash flow and profitability when it comes to retail. So let's get started with this conversation. Alvin, welcome to the podcast.
Dan, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And wow, what an intro. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, we did a little bit of digging in the background to pull out as much information as we could. You know, this podcast really does cater to independent retailers and independent specialty retailers. And pharmacy kind of fits in that specialty world. So You are perhaps more connected to the apparel-based audience that we typically have join us. Mm-hmm. More so than one might think in pharmacy. Pharmacy is not all about prescription drugs.
No.
It is truly running a brick and mortar store. So
Absolutely.
Graduating from college, you bought into your first pharmacy.
Yeah.
What did that feel like?
Oh, wow. That was an exciting adventure. After university, I went overseas for a little while, came back and decided, it was now time to do my thing. I didn't have any money. My parents didn't have any money. So the only way I could get into a business was to hustle myself in a junior partnership role. And I was really fortunate. I met two amazing brothers who were slightly older than me, and they were looking at streamlining their operations and growing their businesses. They already had a couple of shops at the moment. So that's where I kind of told them the value proposition of having a little junior in there. I would do all these things and help them grow their businesses. So it was really exciting. I got in the business, I started working, we opened up another shop. It was really good fun. And but over time, we became equal partners in the business. But what I quickly realized is that I had no idea how to run a business. I mean, I'm a trained pharmacist and, I'm really good with patients, and that's what we do. And, as a 27-year-old, I was really impatient. Like I really wanted to start making some serious money, right? That was my motivation back then. So, and I've always had no issue in seeking help. So I found a business coach, I found some mentors, and together with them, we were able to grow the businesses pretty quickly.
And so you're growing the businesses, you're learning sort of the rhythm or the cadence in retail.
Yeah.
And did you grow a dislike for that business? What sort of ultimately said to you, I'm going to get out of this business? I mean, I'm going to start by saying, I'm going to back up maybe and start by saying,
Uh-huh.
Alvin, being becoming a pharmacist is no
Yeah.
easy feat.
Yeah.
And it's not something that someone wakes up in the morning and says, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be
Definitely
a
not
drug
me
dealer,
either.
and this is me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thought that goes into that. So there must
Uh,
have been a ton of trepidation in leaving.
uh, okay. So leaving, when I left my business, when I sold my last business last year, right. So we actually left, and it's great. We can jump to this part. So I was running my business at the time. This is mid last year or early last year, and my wife is from Germany, and we were in Australia, Melbourne, Australia at that time. And Melbourne, across the whole world, had one of the most stringent lockdown situations. Right. So we could
Yeah.
only leave house for an hour. We could only walk within a 2 or 3K radius. It was really ridiculous. And so we decided, like, let's get out of here. Let's get out of this joint. So my wife quit her job. I was so lucky, and I'm sure we'll touch on this, that all my business have always have been set up for sale, because that's how we've always set things up. So as soon as we decided we're going to leave, I put the business for sale. And pharmacy, pandemic, great business to be in. Profits were up, everything was all humming really quickly and nicely. So it was really easy to sell. We sold it, and then moved to Germany. Now, when I sold it, I was working with a business coach at the time, Glenn, and he was like, Alvin, what are you going to do when you get to Germany? I was like, I've got no idea. I'll maybe buy another business. I knew I couldn't buy another pharmacy because the regulation over here in Germany, where I am at the moment, is different. But I thought I might do something online, or find another business. And after speaking to him several times, he was like, you really should consider being a coach, because you really implemented all the things that we've done together, and you've got some great skills, and apparently I can talk. And so in the end, that's exactly what I did. And so I enjoy giving back to people, helping people, and I think in the end this is a really good decision, because it allows me to marry all my skills and my values, and I get to fulfill my travel and adventure, freedom part of me, and I also get to help other people as well grow their businesses. So yeah, it was a really easy decision.
Yeah. And so I totally understand, the look for escape from Melbourne.
Uh-huh.
Certainly we have, media allows us in on what they want us to see,
Yes.
happening. And certainly we saw Australia as being, pretty stringent through the
Mm.
pandemic. So I get that. So where where did you make the final decision, and how did you start to build this business as you really, move countries?
Yeah, the business I'm in at the moment, my coaching
Yes.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so I started in Melbourne just before we left. So we left, like 9 months ago.
Yeah.
And so I've also tried to beat the system and work with a coach as well. So I'm working with a coach, and we've been able to sort of jumpstart the whole process of getting clients and figuring out my niche and that kind of thing. But it's been really, really good fun.
Yeah.
Like, I really enjoy what I do. Thankfully, I always knew the niche I was going to specialize in within the retail niche, right?
Yeah.
My niche is cash flow and profitability. So that was quite clear to me. And now it's just about providing value to the clients, the retail clients, and I target the English speaking countries,
Of
where we
course.
are around the world, just to make it easier for myself. But it's been really great. I get to travel, I get to do these podcasts as part of, meeting new people. I'm really enjoying it. And
Mhm.
the way I work with clients is in a group coaching format. So it's fantastic. We do everything online. And yeah, I'm building a nice little community, a nice tribe.
Nice. A tribe. I love that.
Yeah.
And so what, outside of that cash flow and profitability niche,
Mm.
who's your target market? Who's your target customer?
Yeah. So my people usually come to me, and this is how I market myself, is when a retailer is in a situation where they're constantly running out of cash, they can't sort of figure out what's going on. They've usually been told, or they can see the numbers in their books, their revenue or their turnover is up, but they've got no money left over. They can't pay their bills, they can't pay their staff, they more importantly can't pay themselves. And that's when they tend to find me. And that's when we start working together,
Right.
and start to lay out the process to get them out of this.
So what does that process start to look like? What are sort of the foundational um, metrics that you start to look at to help improve cash flow?
Absolutely. So the first thing, one of the first things that we do in terms of cash flow is really make sure that the retailer or the small business owner is actually recording their cash flow. This is one of the most common things I find as a retailer or a small business owner. A lot of people don't record their cash flow. They are either confused or overcomplicate the process, or really rely on the reports that their bookkeeper or their accountant gives them, perhaps on a monthly or quarterly basis. But the first thing that we do is we simplify the recording of cash flow, and we do it on a weekly basis so we can really understand the way the cash is flowing through the business. So that's really step one.
Where does inventory play a part in your cash management?
Yeah, absolutely. So inventory plays a part in the second stage, where we really start to look at how much stock we're holding, how much of it is dead stock, and how we go about coming up with some strategies to convert that dead stock or that dead inventory into cash, so then we can move it over and flush our bank account with cash. And then, of course, that inventory process is really trying to understand how we're going to go with our purchasing in the future to ensure that we don't get into this mess again, which is really hard in retail, right? It's such a seasonal business in many retail landscapes that we're playing in, and that's the art. And we just need to test, measure, understand our market, understand what is coming up in terms of seasons for our own particular retail business, and that's the dance that we play.
What are your sort of 3 key metrics that you focus on in or cash flow drivers? What are those metrics that you lean on?
100%. So one of the main things that we look at is your average dollar sale or average sale per client, or some sort of version of that, which is applicable around. Everyone calls it differently around the world. So that's the first thing that we look at, and we want to make sure that we're recording it, or we know what it is the first of all, because it's, for some of us, it can be, especially if we don't have a point of sale system, or even if we do and we're not regularly looking at this figure, we sort of have no idea what's going on. So looking at our average dollar sale is the first one. The second one is really starting to understand our margins, or our average profit margins across the board for our business and our suite of products and services as well. Is really doing that. And then the third thing we look at is, I like to look at what sort of system the business owner has in place for optimizing their expenses. It's a small component, but I think it's a really important component. If the business owner is looking at their expenses regularly and trying to optimize them, on 0.5%, 1% over time, certainly adds up.
Right. And do you benchmark expenses with your clients to say, here's the ideal zone. This is where you are. Here's where we want to go.
Yes. So we try and do that where possible, because I'm dealing with clients in many different markets. Got clients in Australia, New Zealand, and we've got different industries. So usually we can get this benchmarking data from the internet from a reputable source. And that's one of the first jobs that I'll get the retailer to get for me, is to go find this data. So then we know we've got some benchmarking that we can work against. It's certainly always the way to go, just to know how we're going.
Yeah, good. And so let's talk about profit. How do you get a team to focus on the bottom line versus the top line?
Yeah, it's such a really good question. And it's often overlooked in a retail environment where the focus traditionally has always been on revenue. So I think it's really important. What we need to do is, first of all, as a business owner, as a retailer ourselves, we need to understand what are our most profitable products and services. So that's the first step. Make sure we know. The second part is we need to communicate this to the team, and we need to communicate it to the team in a way that ensures that when we are looking after our client or customer, that we're providing the full solution to their problems, or whatever they came in for into our retail environment, but also ensuring that we are recommending these products and services that are of high margin as well. So a lot of it basically revolves around understanding, training, and really role playing with our team to make sure that they really get it. Because we want to make sure this happens, because obviously at the end of the day, it's going to be our team that's going to be driving our business forward while we sort of take a step back as the owner, hopefully, if that's what you want.
And how does that team become more profit centric? How do you get the people on your team that perhaps are indirectly rewarded with profitability, that don't
Yeah.
have a direct connection to it? How do you get them to be, profit centric?
Totally. So I think it's the education piece. So usually it's about understanding what products and services that we are offering that are profitable. And the easiest way, is, I think, when you're first communicating this, is to get your team to have a little checklist or something like that within each category, or your most popular categories in store, whatever you're looking after, and having those key products in there, so if somebody wants this, you can grab them product X, Y, and Z, and it's going to be the best thing for your client, which is what we're here for, or customer. And also ensuring that the products and services that you're recommending are profitable, or have got high margins, I beg your pardon. The other thing is part of the information or the education piece is, retail, many places around the world, we're sort of in a discounting environment. And, we have some loss leaders that, if we are selling, or they sell themselves because that's the way they are, our team are aware that, they can recommend another product or cross-sell that's got really, really good margin that complements what they're buying, and, or, what they're looking to solve. So we just want to make sure that the education piece is all in there.
Right. Good. Okay. Let's shift from in it to on it.
Uh-huh.
So in it and on it is language that we hear throughout every entrepreneurial business.
Yes.
And how do you help your clients balance the in it time and the on it time?
Good question. What I always like to do, and this is like the very, very first step when I start working with my clients, is we take a step back and get the retail business owner to understand what their vision is for their lives themselves. So basically, what do you want out of life? What's really important to you? What are your hobbies, your values, etc.? And then we look at how this retail business that we are in, how can that provide for us? So I think that's really important, that we get some sort of, that we're really clear about that. And unfortunately, it's not a process that many business owners, let alone retailers, do. So once we sort of know where we want to go, right, it makes it really, really a little bit easier to sort of understand that, okay, if I really want to travel the world, or, play baseball 3 times a week, or whatever we want to do, then it's probably going to be important that we start to figure out what I'm going to do with my time. And so, what we often start to do is like a time audit. Just for the next week, we write down everything that the business owner is doing, and then figuring out from there, like, what really energizes you, what you hate doing. I'm sure there are tasks and things in there that you don't like doing at all. And, maybe if you like selling, then okay, let's keep that for the moment. But the first step, I think, is sort of looking at what is draining us and what we don't enjoy doing. And then from there, let's look at giving that task to somebody else. And quite often, hopefully, we've got a retail team. I work with larger businesses that have a team. And, our team members are always looking to take on more responsibility and to contribute more to the business, usually. And, by training somebody up and having a standard operating procedure on how to do the thing that we sort of don't enjoy doing, that's sort of the first few steps in moving away from working in it to on it. So, baby steps.
Baby steps.
I think,
yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay. So then let's just keep talking about, in it, on it, or the version of managing time. I think you and I talked a little bit about, the limited amount of time that we really spend a week working on our business or in our business.
Yeah.
How do we get that entrepreneur that thinks they have to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? How do we get them to start working less? Yes, how do we get them to work smarter, not harder? But really, it's about how do we help them manage their time better so that they're not consumed? I mean, I love the idea of delegate and elevate,
Mhm.
delegate the things that you're not great at or that you don't love doing to someone
Mhm.
that will love that.
Absolutely.
So I just fill that slot, that time slot with some other task in the business.
Yes. Well, that task that you should be filling yourself with is obviously doing what makes you happy in the business initially, but then we need to really think big picture. And that's why I really like ensuring that my client or the retailer has got a vision or mission on what they're trying to achieve in their life, because like I mentioned, that drives everything. But once we're done delegating that, that task, if you will, that really doesn't excite us, I think it's now time to start working on the business. And what does that involve? It's about thinking strategy. How are we going to continue to grow this business? How are we going to form strategic partnerships? What are the marketing initiatives that we're going to come up with for the future? Rather than sort of putting out fires and sort of freestyling as we go, like really taking the time to start thinking about all this stuff. I think that's really, really important. So that's
Okay.
where we go.
So what do you make of the sort of tests that we're seeing around the world now? The UK, I think, was the latest to launch their 4-day work week. How's that going to fit in retail?
Yeah, I actually haven't heard about that. So, but I think, is it all retailers opening 4 days a
Not
week?
just it's not really retail centric. It's just that
All
the
business.
UK is launching this test for 4-day work weeks where salary remains the same. You're just only going to work 4 days a week.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, what I have noticed, I mean, coming from a 7-day trading week in Australia to Germany, which is a 6-day trading week, because like on Sundays, very little is open here.
Right.
It's just a cafe. So what do I think about that? Well, I think if I look at the business owners that are here, I really do think they really enjoy their Sundays. And the some of them that I have spoken to are sort of working on their business. But, it's not going to be a bad thing as long as we really look at, what are you going to be doing with your time, and whether you're going to be really putting out the fires or working in the business, or whether you're really going to take that time to do what you love or work on it. So yeah, too early to tell, Dan.
Yeah.
I'll have to get back to you.
It's interesting to think
Yeah.
that, I mean, I certainly understand how they can move closer to a 4-day work week if they're only trading 6 days a week.
Yes.
But
Yes.
North America, we've long ago gave up free days and
Yeah.
trade 7 days a week, virtually 24 hours a
Totally.
day.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how the labor market forces us to perhaps change our strategy
I
to
think,
get ourselves more time
yeah,
back. We'll
more
see.
time back, and also to compensate, if you were trading 7 days a week, compensate for that revenue. You're certainly going to have to get a lot smarter. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever really coached a retailer to
Yeah.
close their doors on
No.
Sunday. It's always been the opposite.
Yeah.
Why is that store closed? The 3 that are next door to you are open and you're
All
closed.
open. Yes.
We live in, we need people walking through our front door to be able to do
Absolutely.
some business. So yeah, I've
Yeah.
always coached open, not closed. So this idea of transitioning to more restrictive hours doesn't fly for me. It is probably about better spreading the workload. But I do know a lot of retail entrepreneurs that cherish their Sundays. It's the only day that they don't, live consumed by their retail business.
Yeah. Right. Cool.
Interesting. Okay.
It'll be very interesting to see. Yeah. I'll keep an eye
Alvin,
on
you
that.
talked about a tribe and your group. Share with our audience how they find more information about you, where they see your tribe, where they can find you today. Let's talk virtually where they find you.
Yes.
As you're jumping around or in Germany now.
Based out of Germany, yeah.
Yeah,
for the moment. Great. Yeah. So you can find me everywhere. LinkedIn and Facebook are the 2 main places I hang out. Just search for my name, Alvin Narsey. And yeah, we can continue the conversation from there. Just send me a message. Really easy like that. So
Yeah, so I just pulled up on the other screen as you were chatting. I pulled up sort of listeners by geographic location.
Yes.
And Australia is number 4, Germany 5, Portugal 6. So you're going to have some audience members in your backyard listening to the podcast.
That's perfect.
So
I haven't got a client from Germany, and to be honest, I haven't marketed in Germany because my German is almost non-existent. I've got I do classes every day, but it's not my forte yet. But yeah, I mean, certainly reach out.
Yes.
We can start a discussion.
That's awesome. Retailers, thank you so much for joining us again this week. If you're looking for a little bit more information on Alvin Narsey, get over on Facebook and check him out. You can look at the tribe, Retail Business Owners Tribe. Grow your cash flow and profit. The only measure of profitability in retail is cash, not profitability. Focus on your cash and you will be much healthier for it. If you have not joined or subscribed to the Canadian Retail Solutions weekly newsletter, head over to retailbycrs.com, subscribe to that newsletter, get a copy of this podcast and a good bit of information that the team over at Canadian Retail Solutions shares every week. Alvin, thank you again for joining us. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate it too.
All right, retailers, have a great week.